When inmates arrive, they often picture what they've seen in movies, where sexual assault is a common part of prison life. In reality, just like in the community, you have the right to be free from sexual violence. Sexual violence in prisons and jails is illegal. A law passed in 2003 called the Prison Rape Elimination Act, known by its initials PREA, says that all sexual abuse or harassment is prohibited in jails and prisons.
The Maine Department of Corrections has a zero tolerance on any sexual abuse or sexual harassment, and that is with inmate on inmate or staff on inmate.
Sexual violence can range from sexual abuse to sexual harassment. Sexual abuse is generally physical contact, often involving a person's genitals or even contact with genitals and an object. This is obviously against the law. Because officers and staff have power over inmates, inmates cannot consent to any relationship with staff. No sexual relationships, no romantic relationships. Sexual harassment differs from sexual abuse in that it's not necessarily physical contact. Sexual harassment can be any unwanted sexual advances, comments, or actions.
It's not always what you see in Hollywood. It's not just the prison rape. It's so much more. It's words.
The joking, the name calling.
It's touching uncomfortably, coming up behind someone, giving them a massage, and they just don't like that.
So it can range from anything to do with your gender, your sexual preference, who you date, your body image, what you look like, what you wear.
It could be if you're using the restroom facilities or if you're showering and someone is peeking in on you or bothering you or harassing you in there, even if it seems like it's a joking manner.
He would say very derogatory stuff. And I'm like, don't say that. Why are you saying that? He goes, and he would just, keep it going, keep it. And I would tell him, stop doing that. I feel uncomfortable in front of everybody. He would, it was very bad. I mean, I didn't even want to sleep. Sometimes I'd cry. I mean, but what could I do about it?
What can you do if you or someone around you is sexually harassed or abused?
You have a right to be safe. You have a right to be safe in your environment, and you have a right to be safe from sexual assault.
Under PREA law, anyone who is sexually abused or sexually harassed has the right to report it privately and safely. Inmates have the opportunity to report any sexual harassment or abuse in different ways, including telling any officer or supervisor, putting in an anonymous request slip, calling the PREA hotline number that is posted by the facility phones, or telling a family member or friend who can call or report for them. Inmates can also call a confidential community sexual assault advocate who can talk to them over the phone or meet in person to guide them through the reporting process.
They can report it to anyone, and anyone that they report it to then has the responsibility of reporting it to their supervisor or the PREA coordinator, such as myself, to be investigated and looked into.
They can put a request in that's a paper copy. Hey, I need to speak with you at such and such date, instead of going up and reporting it because you're nervous or embarrassed by it.
We're going to talk to them and try to keep things as confidential as possible with still getting them help that they need. That's
how a lot of these allegations come forth. They come through a request slip, or just information comes through and we meet with them, instead of them coming up and talk about their business with, ears everywhere.
There's an immigrant population, I would say, and typically, I would say just like most inmates, they don't want to come forward. They don't trust people in uniform, and I just think it's important to come forward if you have any forms of harassment. You also need to let staff know that so that it's documented, and so that we can go out and do what we can to make sure that the entire inmate population is feeling safe.
Definitely don't sit back and let anything happen, because that's the mistake I made, is I sat and dealt with it for 4 months before I really knew what to do.
Either way, you're being bothered, so you at least going to tell and do something, you know, eventually there's going to be an input to it, rather than just dealing with it your whole stay and who knows who's the next person's going to be.
As well as the right to report sexual violence, the PREA law gives you the right to free medical and mental health care from the prison staff. You also have the right to get the support of a sexual assault advocate from outside the prison. This help is available for sexual violence you've experienced any time in your life, even as a child or before you went to prison. And you don't have to file an official report to get this help. Under PREA, inmates can talk to outside advocates either over the phone, or advocates can come into the facility and have professional visits with inmates.
Sometimes when people call the hotline, they can get patched directly through to talk with an advocate then and there.
When I was given the number for an advocate, I didn't know what to do. For 2 days, I think I sat on the number and didn't know what to do.
And so if somebody wants to have a face-to-face meeting, they can have an advocate come in and have that private conversation.
The girlfriend I was with at the time, I had her call this number, and an advocate actually came in and spoke with me.
So we provide a lot of face-to-face meetings for folks. We can come in multiple times and continue to work with people around any sort of concerns that they might have.
And she was definitely one that saved my life. I mean, it was like a sense of relief, and you know, she was there like 2-3 times a week to see me, and I was actually, you know, I filed the grievance. She helped me with the grievance process.
It can be confusing because there are 2 numbers to call. One is the PREA hotline, where you can record abuse that can trigger an investigation.
When you call the PREA hotline, that hotline is to report any incidents that have happened around sexual violence in a facility. And when you call that hotline, it can trigger an investigation into those incidents. Whereas the statewide sexual assault helpline is an outside support, so we have sexual assault support centers throughout the state. And we can come in and provide private support. We're not a reporting option. We don't share that information with correctional officers.
Sexual assault support services are completely free and completely confidential. When I meet with an inmate in a facility, I always want to let that person know that whatever they're sharing with me is going to stay confidential between that person and myself.
Even if somebody has a question around, you know, what is this? Does this count as sexual violence? They're more than welcome to talk with an advocate.
Well, they ended up shipping the inmate out of there, and they all apologized to me. I got my job back, and so.
I always say, you know, trust your instincts and your gut, and if you feel uncomfortable by something because of something that's happened, by all means, go ahead and call an advocate. We're happy to hear and talk with folks any time of day or night.
We can continue to offer our support and services once you are released into the community, because that is one of the most important times where life is coming down on you. You still have this trauma, it still needs to be addressed, and you still need that support, and we are still going to be there.
It's scary to go through changes and, you know, defendants standing up against people, especially superiors, but it's a relief. You know, it's something you can let go of, something you're not dealing with anymore, and something one day you'll be proud of that you've done for yourself and other people.